Hold up. This isn't some cheesy kid show. This is Kids in the Tank, a young perspective on business from high school students.
Welcome to Kids in the Tank. I'm Olivia, and with me in the tank today are Oscar, Zach, and Adia. Today we have the honor to have Nick Vlahos on the phone with us. Nick is currently CEO of The Honest Company. Nick, you are officially in the hot seat.
Hey, what's up, Nick? This is Oscar.
Hey, Oscar. It's an honor to be in the hot seat.
Ooh.
It's getting a little warm. I'm in Los Angeles, California, and I'm starting to feel the heat already.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
Well, it's about to get turned up, so beware.
Oh, yeah. Get ready. So, you're at a company
Good.
that sells cleaning products. My question is, do you use your own products, and is your office always clean?
Actually, yeah, we have baby products, we've got beauty products, and we've got some great cleaning products. And actually, I do use the products. We use the detergent at home. I use the all-purpose cleaner. But my favorite, actually, I've got a hand sanitizer that I love using because I'm a bit of a germaphobe.
Ooh.
Oh, yep. Same here.
Me too.
Yeah, so I've got I've got an orange with aloe hand sanitizer always with me,
nice.
and I do like to use our products.
I gotta
Awesome.
get myself some of that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Hey, Nick. My name is Zach. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
I hear that you went to high school with Jeff Peterson of BizTank. How was he in your back in the day?
Also, we'd like to apologize for any scarring experiences
well,
we have had.
Jeff, was a leader at a young age. I'm not just saying that.
Aw.
Oh, you're complimenting
Yeah,
him.
we thought you were gonna
Ooh.
diss him. Ugh.
No, I didn't diss him. He really was. I mean, he was the quarterback of our high school football team, which was a pretty competitive school of about 1,600 guys.
Oh,
It was an
wow.
all-boys school, Loyola Academy, in Wilmette, Illinois. And Jeff was those leadership skills. When you're running a football team of some pretty talented folks in the Catholic League, which is the league in Chicago and the surrounding suburbs. You got to have some pretty good leadership skills to be the person on point, not just in football, but also, in academics, also at school where he excelled at. So always, when I think of Jeff, I always thought of him as an individual that has you could tell at a young age that he was going to be a leader. He wasn't a follower by any means. And he's a guy that, I always talk about do the right thing. You never had to worry about, Jeff not, leaning in to do the right thing.
So my question is, would you have considered yourself a leader in high school?
I would say I played baseball in high school. I was a pitcher. I liked having the ball in my hand. I wrote for the school paper. I think I led a little differently. I wasn't going to be the boisterous one, but I always had kind of a self-awareness.
Led by example.
And I would say a little bit of a little bit of self-confidence along the way, where it was like, hey, you know what? I was comfortable in my own shoes, and that's hard when you're in high school to be comfortable kind of in your own shoes. You got a lot of people that want to influence you a certain way. There's different choices that you can make at an early age, but kind of going back and thinking about that, it's a great question. I would say I learned to be more of a leader, but the foundation that I had was always geared towards, hey, same thing as when I talk about Jeff, like, hey, do the right thing. You're gonna, you want to be with individuals that, are going to be, from a background perspective and kind of what you get involved with and who you engage with.
Sure.
You want to be open, you want to be receptive to all, but choose your friends wisely.
I agree.
Yeah, wow.
That's great advice.
So you
Thank
kind of
you.
had more a quiet confidence thing going on.
Yeah.
That's really important, I think.
Yeah,
Like,
the
to
people
just-
who you surround yourself
and
To
with.
be
just, like,
humble too.
Yeah, realizing like you can do your own thing and it's okay and it's gonna take you somewhere in the future.
Absolutely.
Wow, well that was really
Sweet.
cool.
Yeah.
So, all right, Nick.
Back to Oscar.
All right, my question is, when hiring people, what is the biggest thing you look at other than experience?
Good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always, what's really important to me is that they've got really good, kind of similar to you, the three of you, really good communication skills. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's important. I mean, what the work you guys are doing right now, you're trying to develop and develop communication and interpersonal relationships. So I think communication is super important. I think being collaborative, being willing to be selfless and work with others is important. I always
Respect
use
everyone.
a line that yeah, it's a line that has been with me for a long time, which is, focus more on being interested versus trying to be interesting. And what I mean by that is being interested is, being curious, trying to seek to understand, and versus, hey, I'm the smartest person in the room, just listen to me talk and, try to impress constantly. Just be yourself, and people recognize, that, hey, this person knows what they're talking about, or they don't know what they're talking about. But, be humble along the way.
Oh yeah.
That's really cool. That's kind of like what we've kind of done with BizTank. Is we've all I mean, like, I've never been really one to be interested in business, but this seems like a really cool
Oh, absolutely.
opportunity.
That's
to
why
just
I'm
get
in it,
involved
is to just kind of develop
Yeah, 'cause
those
it's
public
something that you
speaking skills
don't
and
really know.
everything.
Honestly.
Just get
Learn
back out
something new
there.
about myself.
I saw
Yeah,
people,
for sure.
I saw people whose communication skills coming in here weren't that good.
Yeah.
Now, when they're done being in this BizTank program, off the charts.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Calms you down,
And it
for
also,
sure.
like,
They
it
got
takes
some self-confidence now.
Yeah, it takes a lot to, like, because we're all from different schools, so it takes a lot to be able to, like, come into a room and kind of, like, know who you are and how to present yourself and how to, like,
in front of strangers,
right,
especially.
in front of strangers.
Yeah, so that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, back to me again, Zach. Here.
Oh my
God. When you were our age, what was your dream, and how did you plan on pursuing it?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. That's a deep
Pretty packed question.
Yeah. You're in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dream was honestly to make my parents proud. I had, my mom and dad and my family. We're a real close family, very, connected. My parents came to the U.S. from Greece. My mom and dad, they came here for the American dream.
Oh, cool.
And my dad worked came here as a dishwasher, working at a restaurant. My mom worked in Chicago at the Drake Hotel, working in the banquet facility. And they did a great job of instilling, values in me at a young age and giving me opportunities along the way as they, achieved a great life in Chicago as they, kind of developed their careers and their future. And they gave myself, I'm the youngest of three, and my two sisters, every opportunity to excel. And I didn't want to really screw that up.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that, when they could look back, they could say, hey, even their legacy was, hey, we raised, three amazing kids that, however you want to define amazing, that we're proud of.
Wow. Well,
And,
that's
Cool.
awesome.
that's really
Cool.
awesome. Yeah.
Now you're living the dream.
Yeah. So being were you first generation college kid then?
I was.
So
cool.
it definitely sounds like that shaped your life and that you were, like, conscious of it from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So would you say that was, like, motivation for you going through school?
It really was because, along the way, first generation, I didn't want to, fall on my face, and
Right.
And there was also, I would tell you, I was also intimidated. I was I had quite confidence, but I always had kind of the butterflies. And even today, all the years, there's always, I tell my 4 children, butterflies in your stomach means that you're prepared. And they say, well, why do you say that? And it's like, well, if you don't have those, and you've done the work and you know that you're, like, ready to go, if you don't have them, it's kind of like you don't really care.
Right.
And you want
to show you
It's a
care.
good way to put it.
because,
Yeah.
you've done the work, and you got a little angst, and we talk about school and being kind of first generation college. Now, not too long ago, I got to speak at the MBA program at Harvard.
Oh, wow.
Just casually.
That's pretty prestigious.
Yeah, and, it's and from the standpoint of just in this story, which is I had even going through school, going to college, I always would think of like a Harvard, or I never had the opportunity to go to schools like that or a Duke. And here I am, having to go in front of, a group of, MBA students, talking a case study and doing a presentation. And guess what? Even though I'm 40, at the time, 47 years old, I still had the butterflies. I still, was like, oh my gosh, this is at a different level for even me.
Did you ever envision yourself doing that in high school?
Never.
No.
I just envisioned trying to graduate high school.
Yeah, well.
That's the goal. That's what I'm doing right now.
We're all in that boat.
And having somebody accept me into a college,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a big deal. I went to Indiana University, a Big Ten school, and I was like, oh my gosh, they accepted me, and I'm going to be able to go to college.
Yeah.
But the key theme is, the earlier question around, don't want to disappoint. Even today, I've got kind of that same feeling, and also the feeling of there's always still the butterflies.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how old you are.
Aw.
Yeah, well, so I guess I'll jump into my question. My name's Adia, and this is kind of similar to Zach's question. All right, so as most of us have had a role model growing up, who influenced your decision to study business throughout your life the most, would you say?
I think my mom really influenced me even more than my dad. My dad worked a lot. 6 a.m. in the morning till he'd come home at 5. We'd have dinner. And then he'd go back to the restaurant to shut the restaurant down. He was a restaurant owner. So he was always going. But he'd bring me along. I'd work at the restaurant. So I really took away work ethic, how you work with people, customer service, the customer's always right. So I learned those lessons. The lesson I learned from my mom that's always been there is like, hey, you could do whatever you want to do. She has always, and to this day, she's 81 years old.
Oh.
It doesn't matter who I'm with, who I'm interfacing with. She's always like, listen, you be you, and you can do whatever you want to do. So she always had this like push around, don't be intimidated, you're good enough. And having that voice, kind of in that encouragement over the years, has, I think, helped me and helped shape me, because there is that quiet confidence, but there's also the easiness around, you better be prepared. Do your homework.
And so, like,
Sure.
and how would you say that this decision further shaped your journey to becoming the executive vice president of Clorox and now becoming the CEO of the Honest Company?
I think, whatever, I guess, a couple lessons. So as I talked about growing up, working in a restaurant, working with my father, the work ethic, the communication skills, the interpersonal skills, do the right thing, work with people. Your employees are your teammates. You want them excelling along the way. That started pretty young. Like, I was just exposed to that early on.
Yeah.
And then also with my mom saying, hey, you can achieve whatever you want to achieve as long as you do the work and you are prepared, then guess what? Put it out there. It really helped shape me, because who I then started to interface with, whether it's, as an EVP at Clorox, dealing with a board of directors, dealing with Wall Street, dealing with analysts. At the Honest Company, I'm dealing with folks like Jessica Alba.
That's a big one.
I'm dealing with business that, is really looking to expand globally, so business people overseas. All those lessons early in my life and what kind of helped shape me are being applied, whether it's a big business and a big company or something small. They're the same lessons, whether I'm talking to somebody that's just starting at the honest company that sits across my desk and they're like, how do I get ahead? Or in a board asking about, hey, we need to make a significant investment in capital to build a new, distribution center. Those are all things, have stuck with me.
Yeah.
How important would you say that communications is in any job in general?
Yeah.
I think it's super important because your job is to either you're an individual, let's say you're an individual contributor doing a piece of work in an organization. There's always going to be somebody that you answer to and they want to know the progress you're making around your initiative project. So you have to be able to articulate that. If you're running, a group of 4 or 5 people and you guys are sitting in a room with 4 or 5 or how many of you from different backgrounds, different schools, you want to be able to collaborate and work with others. And if you're managing others, you want to be able to help them rally to a better place. And you need to be able to communicate.
Yeah.
If I'm, I'm sitting in a boardroom trying to convince a board to invest in an initiative in a project, art of persuasion, I have to be able to communicate and explain something to them to be able to get the support. So it's super important.
Yeah.
And I don't say it from the standpoint of, you're in front of 1,000 people giving speeches.
At Harvard.
Yeah. Being able to relate, being able to connect. And I really, being interested in the other individual that's sitting across from you, and then
Asking
being
questions.
able to cater your message and your communication with that individual is, the secret sauce.
Sweet.
All
I
right.
agree
Secret
completely.
formula.
I've got another one here for you.
Oh my
Is there any one thing that someone has said to you that has stuck with you to this day?
Yeah, I think I shared this with a group earlier before the podcast with the BizTank group. And there's a gentleman, his name's Jim Collins, and he's written one book titled, Good to Great. And Jim was a professor at Stanford University early in his career.
Wow.
A lot of different books over the years around business, around leadership, development. He's studied business and leadership really as kind of the high level. But when he was a professor at Stanford, he was kind of like the hot shot professor. He did a great job. And it was like, oh my God, the guy's amazing. Everybody wanted to be in his class. And he was, at the end of the year, he had his review. And his boss had given him a glowing review and said, Jim, you're amazing. You're doing great. Everybody wants to be in your class.
10 out of 10.
You're fabulous. They're literally just telling him how great he is.
Yeah.
And at the end, he could have stopped and said, thank you for all the great comments. But he asked a question. He said, hey, well, is there something I can really start to work on to just get even a little bit better? And the guy who at the time was his boss said, Jim, there is something that you can do to make yourself a little bit better. And he said, focus more on being interested versus trying to be interesting. And I just shared that with you guys a little bit ago. And to me, it's powerful because it's really, I picked it up about 20 years ago, and it's really stuck with me over the years because I can say that to anybody, and I see it. If you hire a brand new person, are you being more interested versus trying to be interesting? You're with a group of people who've been around for a while. You kind of can tell, like, who's the one that wants to take the credit and wants to talk about it.
Right.
Usually, they start to stick out.
Yeah, you can really apply it to everything.
Yeah, for sure.
You really can, whether it's business or not business, and just even just with your relationships with your friends, you kind of see it.
Yeah. Sorry. So we were talking a little bit. We were talking a little bit earlier.
That's one
about you seem to have these like pillars that you've sort of based your work life on, and your even like your personal life. I want to know what it took to be able to like sit down and kind of recognize those traits in yourself, and then like articulate them and know how to like keep applying
Yeah.
yourself towards those
That's
pillars and
really
like making
cool.
sure that they're strong and like
Yeah, those 5
yeah.
that you
Your like
mentioned
curiosity,
earlier.
yeah.
Yeah, I picked them up along the way.
Okay.
In my career, it wasn't that I had them all kind of.
Yeah.
This, and
I
this.
didn't sit in a room and say, "Oh, in college, I was sitting in a room in a corner, coming up with." But
One more.
I've always I've been very interested in human behavior, and I was always very observant, and I always, looked at kind of common themes with individuals that I looked at and said, well, how did they do well, or how did they grow, and how did they develop? And these are kind of the areas that I've kind of observed and have been embedded. And I've also read and studied, business and studied leadership.
For
and
sure, yeah.
I talk about Jim Collins. And people who I look at and go, wow, they've done fairly well. They've figured some things out along
They're
the
doing
way.
okay.
And again, it depends on what your definition is, But for me, it was, hey, they're not just smart and they're not just talented. It's also, I always talk about the what and the how.
Okay.
It's not that they're really good at. We need to do it, and are they doing things the right way?
Yeah.
Do they, try to bring others along? Are they trying to continue to improve and get better? Are they curious? Are they real students of their craft? And those are the things, that I try to impart in people now after doing this for a little while and having a little bit of, success along the way.
Sweet.
Hey Nick, Oscar again. I got a question for you. So, I know you've been with these huge companies like Burt's Bees, Clorox. If you said you love doing what you're doing, did you love what you were doing at Burt's Bees before you went to Clorox?
Yeah, actually, Clorox had bought Burt's Bees.
Oh.
So,
Who's that honest now? Yeah.
Yeah, they gave me that business to actually run. And I would tell you, different businesses that I've worked on, I've enjoyed the business because I feel like I could make something out of it that's kind of my own.
Yeah.
And put my thumbprint on that business.
It's like a legacy.
Work doesn't necessarily always have to be, you can't look at it's just work, but it's like, how do you make it interesting?
Yeah.
How do you make it fun along the way? I had a business that I ran, the Brita business, it's a water filtration business. And I wanted to drive awareness on that business, and get people to drink, more filtered water, better for you. And you're like, well, how do you make that fun? And one way is create the product line, innovation, go beyond pitchers and have now on-the-go type bottles that you can actually go and put in a faucet and filter it and drink it. But then I'm like, you know what? I want to really drive awareness on that business. And I went out and I found a guy named Stephen Curry, the Golden State Warriors.
This guy.
To become the spokesperson for that brand and built that business.
I actually know the product you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because of that.
Yes.
Yeah, drink amazing.
Yeah.
Brita. But my point is not about Stefan, but my point is about, take something that you can look at and go, God, it's kind of mundane. It's, it's a filter, it's a pitcher, it's water. How exciting is that? And how do you reimagine it? How do you bring it to life differently, in the marketplace? And whether it's the product and how you innovate, or then how you want to communicate and make it more relevant in, today's, consumer base. That's fun stuff. I mean, you get to play with.
Yeah, make it fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So kind of along with that, one thing that we talk about a lot at BizTank is this culture, like creating the culture, creating the vibe that we're about. My question is, how important is it to create a culture with your brand? And did you have to work for it, or did it kind of come naturally as you progressed and grew?
Yeah, I'm a big believer that the culture is really an output of a vision and kind of a mission that gets established.
Okay.
So, for example, here when you look at, the Honest Company
Yeah.
and kind of who we are and what we're trying to build. Jessica had a vision when she created this company
Mhm.
to really bring to life really a business that was oriented towards health and wellness, better for you products without harsh chemicals and things like parabens, phthalates, and petrochemicals,
Yeah.
and things that can impact someone's health. So she had that aspiration, she had that vision, and then the people that have been attracted to this company to come work here need to also understand that that mission is authentic and real, and they want to be a part of that because that's what we're creating, that's what we're building, those are the products we're making. And if you're not interested in that, then the culture that then gets created in an organization is going to be one that's going to be tugging in different directions.
Okay.
And you want a culture that you're creating where people are pulling in the same direction.
Right.
So for me, it starts with have a clear vision, what's the mission, what you're trying to get accomplished, and then attract the talent that from a head and heart standpoint
Like
support
agrees
that.
with it. Yeah. Okay, I need to ask you about Jessica Alba. I just gotta know.
Get it off her
Do you
chest.
know her? Like, are you guys buddies? Do you go out for dinner? Like, what's the relationship there?
Yeah, I mean, Jessica's here. Jessica's foremost, she's an amazing lady, an amazing mom, an amazing business person.
Yeah.
And I speak very highly of her because she's authentic.
Right.
And
Right.
Yeah, wow.
business created and her work ethic is beyond belief. She's here on average probably 4 to 5 days in a week.
Wow.
She lives about 25, 30 minutes from this office. And she's in here not just hanging out, but she's sitting next to me and we're looking and talking marketing. We're talking business plans. We talk logistics, talk culture. We talk about empowerment. We talk about, what we're trying to get accomplished as not just a business, but also making an impact in our communities and from a social responsibility standpoint. So we spent a lot of time together. I traveled with her, and we were in Europe for a week. She's,
Cool.
I think at this point, 6 or 7 months pregnant. She's going to have her third child.
Oh.
I don't know that.
Yeah, no, me neither. You heard it here first. Breaking news.
She's still, putting in a lot of work because she's passionate.
Yeah.
It goes back to what we talked about earlier. In her heart of hearts, the mission, the vision, what she wants to get done with this business isn't just about the bottom line. It's about making significant change, making an impact in the world, and creating a legacy. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Hey, just kind of switching gears here. In your professional life, were there any kind of big roadblocks that got in your way and made you kind of want to either change careers or just kind of switch what you were doing, change paths a little bit?
It wasn't necessarily a roadblock. Early in my career, one time, and I think it was one of the best decisions I made, and that was it was the best decision I made. I was working in Chicago, and I had an opportunity to move to Providence, Rhode Island, outside, not too far from Boston, and work in that area for the company that I was working for. And I went and visited the area. And at a very young age, I wasn't married. I was probably, 26 years old. I just wasn't comfortable. I visited the area, in Providence, and that area is beautiful. It just didn't feel right to me. In my heart of hearts, it was like I wasn't energized by not just the location, but kind of the work they wanted me to go do and the person I was going to report to. And at that age, you could do a couple things. You could be like, well, and in those days, not taking the promotion, it was a promotion.
Oh, wow.
It could be kind of the kiss of death. It was like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, that's risky.
Yeah.
You're all of a sudden, who are you to say no to this? You didn't have any ties. It looked like you had to be. I wasn't married. I didn't have children. So, but it didn't feel right, and I decided, you know what, I'm not going to do it. And it was one of the biggest, toughest decisions because I had to go to my boss at the time and go, I'm not taking the promotion. I thought I was going to do it. Went visit. I'm not going to do it. And they were like, well, this is back, Nick, but someone else is going to take it, and it's going to set you back a bit. And I said, that's okay. It's going to set me back, and it frustrated me. It upset me inside. And it made me even more like tenacious around doing even a better job in the work that I was doing to make sure that I had another opportunity. And literally, I think it was maybe 5-6 months later, they said, well, hey, we have an opportunity for you in Newport Beach, California. And
like, that's what you were reading for.
And so I didn't take the other job. I went to Newport, and it was the best decision. The reason I say it's the best is I met my wife. And,
how long have you guys been together?
21 years.
Oh, cool.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like, gosh, if I had not done that, who knows how things would have turned out.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I have a question about, so you said you came on board with Honest about 6 months ago. So what are you most excited to do for the company, or where do you see it going? What do you see yourself doing with it?
Yeah. What I'm most excited about is I really think we have an opportunity to kind of redefine health and wellness.
Oh wow,
how consumers
that's a big
The
one.
whole industry.
Yeah, around what they put, on their body, what they put in their body, what's around your body every day. And what I mean by that is if I tell you that, hey, approximately, 60% of what you put on your skin permeates, gets into your bloodstream.
I didn't know that. I don't want that.
I didn't know that.
I haven't thought about that. The average limit that lives to be, let's say, 75 years old on average. If you live to that age, and I hope you guys all live way past that.
Wow, thanks.
But if I tell you that you'll consume, on average, if you apply lipstick, almost 5 pounds of lipstick in your life because of, basically dabbing kind of your lips together. And
not me though.
Yeah, watch out, Zach.
I'll pass.
there are ingredients in those products that aren't great for you. So being able to kind of redefine what you put on your skin or what you're putting in your body, if we're talking about vitamins or supplements, and then you think about as you think about around, as you think of air, you think of purification in your homes and things like that. I really believe that we have an opportunity as a brand to kind of redefine those spaces over the next few years and introduce some pretty cool products, make a difference for individuals, and have some fun along the way. And that's really where I'm spending a lot of time working in those areas.
Awesome.
Wow.
Yeah,
So you guys
sounds
really
like a
dig
great
deep into
plan.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping us safe.
Yeah, thanks for looking out for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I feel like I could use some of that hand sanitizer now.
This is that
After you
orange.
telling me that. Yeah.
All right, so I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, thank you for answering all of our questions and kind of giving us some wisdom. I don't know,
Thank you so much.
you really
It's an
gave us
honor.
some great advice.
Yeah.
So now we're going to be moving on to our next segment, which is called Flip It,
Uh-oh.
and you are going to be asking us the questions.
Very good. Well, maybe what I'll start with, and I'll throw it out there based on kind of your demographic, and as you think of consuming kind of media and information, share with me a little bit of hey, where do you spend disproportionate amount of your individual time? And I think I might know the answer, but share with me hey, where are you consuming? Where are you spending your time? What do you guys looking at?
Facebook, of course.
Oh yeah,
Facebook.
that's the big one for me. That's where I get all my
All
news
your
from.
news,
Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram,
Mine
the top
is-
3.
Mine is probably the biggest is Snapchat.
Yeah,
That's where I get
Snapchat.
most of my news from now. Is the
Yeah.
news stories on
Snapchat's
Snapchat.
more of the personal connection, but then you go to
Yeah.
Facebook and Twitter
Yeah.
and
You
you
see,
get kind of the whole world
what's
wrapped
going
up.
on.
And with Instagram and Facebook, you can actually as a company sponsor your
Yeah.
products.
Oh,
So
yeah.
Put your
a lot of
ads.
times things will show up in my news feed or colleges that I'm
Yeah, that you
interested
looked up the night
in.
before.
And it almost seems like like our phones track what we say, because one day I'll be talking about a product, and then the next day it'll show up in my
Yeah.
Facebook.
In your news
I
feed.
really want to
noticed
buy
that,
that.
too.
So I definitely feel like
know.
those two specifically are like the best like
For,
handles
like,
out there.
for, like,
Yeah.
media attention, yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. If you want exposure,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
notice.
But if you want like a quick ad, I would say go to Snapchat,
Go to
because that's just
Snapchat.
kind of
Yeah.
like a quick.
Yeah, that's how like everybody like.
It's pretty
sees what
easy to
you're
get out of
doing, where
those,
you're
too.
at.
That's true. You can just
Yeah, there's not many of them either, so it might stick out. Too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Right. So Facebook still plays a big role. So a lot of
Yeah.
folks always talk about Instagram's become the thing,
Mhm.
Snapchat, but you guys are all kind of consistent. Still like, hey, Facebook's still a key component of
Yeah.
kind of.
Yeah, I know the younger
MySpace.
generation. Yeah, like we've kind of geared away from Facebook and more towards Snapchat.
And Instagram.
Yeah.
Well, and a lot of us have like our relatives and like parents on
Yeah.
Facebook
Oh, I
too,
know.
and they're really big about sharing
Yeah.
stuff, so they keep us like connected.
Yeah, we kind of want to get away from that too a little bit.
That's true,
Snapchat
like,
kind of
Snapchat's
allows
like my
that.
But now my mom has a Snapchat, my grandma has a
Same.
Snapchat. Guys, I
Oh.
love you.
Yeah, I'm not adding you.
So I mean, things spread fast. So
yeah.
I guess any of those would
Snapchat's
work
the
for.
big one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's it. So when you think about, if we talk about consumer products, what are some of your, some go-tos when you look at, different categories and you're like, gosh, is there still loyalty when people think about products and you're like, gosh, I really enjoy kind of these types of products. It doesn't have to be in the spaces I'm talking about,
Okay.
but you're like, gosh, every morning I really love this and I can't live without it. Maybe just kind of share with me, a couple items that you guys are like, gosh, I'm really passionate about. I actually love, this or that.
Well,
Yeah, well, like for me, when I choose my products, I choose what best fits me. Like if I
yeah, your
I get a-
personality and everything.
Yep. When I get a body wash, I pick one that's good for my body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think especially living in Wisconsin, I really like the warm clothes. So like
Yes.
the flannels and all that.
Flannels.
The headless shirt.
Patagonia. Oh my
Oh.
goodness. Yeah, all of that. North Face.
Yeah, a lot of
Yep.
it is also like brands that you can trust.
Oh yeah.
So it's like if you have one thing from them that's really good, you're gonna know that like the rest of it is
Mhm.
dependable. And
A lot of
nice.
the local stuff too is
Yeah, yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
The cheese.
Oh,
Wisconsin cheese.
Yeah, but I know like that fill in the blank kind of like what you have to have every morning. I know a couple of my friends, like you said, like you have to have Starbucks every morning.
Mhm.
That is definitely like a mainstream thing.
Oh,
that
yeah.
some
Oh,
people
yeah.
For sure.
need to
Everywhere.
have. Some people really enjoy buying all of their clothes from American Eagle.
Mm.
So if that
Mhm.
floats your boat,
If that's what you're
then do
about.
it. But they
Like
do
a
make really,
Hollister.
really
Yeah.
amazing
Sorry.
clothes that last for
Yeah.
a long time, and you know where they're made.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of people are loyal to one business,
Gotta
and
be
it's
loyal,
pretty
gotta
cool.
be loyal.
Yeah.
If you love one other product,
Right.
you're gonna love
Right.
I hear a common theme around, quality, stuff that performs.
Mhm.
You guys gravitate like that's a big deal.
And then
And,
something that you feel a part of as well. I think that's a big one.
Also, like being a high school student, like even when you're saying like you get Starbucks every morning, like it also has to be affordable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
dependable and affordable, which is kind of a rough trade-off.
Yeah.
But I think
Yep.
like the affordability of it also definitely
Mhm.
factors in for me.
Yeah,
Oh
like-
yeah.
Yeah,
Like you
me
said,
too.
you can just buy the bag and make it at home, but I like the experience.
You like the
of
experience?
Just
Yeah.
going into Starbucks.
Yeah. Oh
and-
yeah, for sure.
hmm
Yeah. Well, the two places when I was younger, I'd come through Wisconsin. Obviously the Broad House in Kenosha and
Ah.
Custom.
Okay.
Two of my,
A classic.
yeah, very very loyal in those days. But tell me, maybe share with me a little bit about kind of the experience when it comes to as you're thinking about schools and college and kind of that whole thing. Probably right in kind of what you guys are dealing with. Maybe just share a little bit about kind of that process and kind of what you guys are going through right now. What's kind of been the most surprising to you as you're kind of going down that path around applications and schools? Is there one thing that kind of you look at and go, oh, this is kind of surprising that I'm dealing with this or that?
Yes.
Is it okay if I
Yeah.
speak?
Okay, go for it.
One of the biggest things that I've been dealing with is I feel like as a freshman and sophomore in high school that our counselors and like the faculty didn't do the greatest job talking about how important your ACT score and your GPA
absolutely.
are when it comes to college, because that is what scholarships like are based on, especially if you go to like a state school. You have to have like, you might have to have a certain GPA with a certain ACT score. And so I really wish there would be more of an emphasis, because it's coming to the point where like I wish I would have known that. But then it would have kicked in before junior year when I had to kick it into high gear. I guess another thing would be too is like it's really difficult, because I know like you said you moved so many times like with your job and everything like that. I know a lot of people move high schools, and I happen to do that myself. And one of the things is most high schools in Wisconsin specifically, like credits don't transfer. So like transcripts and like having an accumulative GPA is like a really hard thing when it comes to searching for colleges and getting those scholarships, because they don't both coincide together.
I think another really big thing, especially just me looking at colleges, I just actually filled out an application for Minnesota Twin Cities.
Proud.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping. We'll see.
Hopefully.
But just this is a pretty obvious one, but the cost of college is just so ridiculous. I mean, the reciprocity between Minnesota and Wisconsin is very awesome. It's like it's great. But it's still gonna end up being like $25,000 a year, which I mean, I don't have that.
It's like not even a number you can like fully conceptualize.
Yeah,
like I can't even like think about how much like 25.
I'm a lifeguard in the summer. I make minimum wage. What $25,000? That's crazy.
And it's really hard when like they tell you to go to pick a school based on where you feel like you fit in, when like financial aid and like how much you can afford really
definitely
like, counts towards it.
That's
like
a big factor.
I'm looking at, I got accepted to Winona State in Minnesota, so we get reciprocity, but it's still $20,000 a year. But it's crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
What are some areas that you guys are passionate about when it comes to what you'd like to study, based on what's getting you guys excited, based on your own interests? Maybe just share a little bit with me. Kind of which paths are you guys considering right now?
For me, sorry.
Okay.
I am going into college majoring in political science and minoring in Spanish, or that's the plan for now at least.
As of now.
Yeah, exactly. It changes all the time, I know. But and then people always say like, "Oh, so you're gonna be the president?" I'm like, no, that's not what I want to do. But like to work in a nonprofit, help people out. I think that's something that really inspires me to kind of keep pushing forward. So
yeah. What about you, Oscar?
Well, like with me, I want to do a 4-year college,
yeah.
and I want to major in criminal justice.
Ooh.
Yeah,
A police officer, or
it even sounds cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like I got you.
Yeah, and I just feel like I watch a lot of shows about
Like, I
FBI,
got this.
CIA.
Oh, CSI.
Yeah.
That's what makes me want to drive into that.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I kind of want to go for something different. I've always had like a passion for music, and I've had a newfound passion for business. And I definitely realized growing up that like being a singer is not guaranteed, and being famous and having all this wealth and money is never guaranteed. So I figured that at least if I get a degree in the music business, that there is a lot of opportunity, especially down in Nashville, Tennessee, where I hope to live someday. So I definitely feel like a degree in that field would be an amazing fit for me. And then a minor in marketing to work in like promotions and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just a junior, so I still have a little bit to think. But right now, my tentative plan is I want to go into neuroscience.
Look at us. We're so like not mainstream, but I love it.
Yeah, I want to study kind of cognition and like what makes a person and the brain and all that good stuff. But it's just like kind of realizing what you can do with that as a career going forward. That's kind of been the tricky part. So it's mostly like research, but you can also do clinical, and it's just a lot of different avenues you can apply.
It's pretty tricky because like down that road you can change your mind.
Yeah.
To something else.
Yeah.
Well, I think now it's like an average of 5 times that you change your major in college. Yeah.
And it scares me because I'm putting all this money and time into it. I'm like just to change my mind.
Yeah.
It's also kind of interesting though, like to see, because like one of my things is that like you don't even know what careers are going to be out there. Like when you get done with college, like there are going to be career fields that are going to be created,
especially with
like,
technology.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's like a degree for everything. So just like being able to like pick one is kind of like scary, but also kind of exciting.
Also for job shadows, I know people that don't know what a job shadow is, and they should get into that.
Yeah, super important. For
gonna
sure.
get
Yeah.
into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other questions for us?
I think that's pretty awesome that at least you guys have ideas and
Yeah.
you have some energy, and those areas are awesome. You know that you guys are. There's passion and there's a reason that
Curiosity.
something's sparking. You know, to have you at least engage in that space. Just learn as much as you can about that space even before you get to the school, just to understand like, hey, how do I build my toolbox, and start to understand different elements of each of those areas. It's pretty cool. That's awesome.
Great.
Maybe the last one. I think we're going to be running out of time here a little bit. I'll ask you, hey, who's influenced you the most, maybe, as you think about who you are and what you.
Hey, we're still under our parents' roof, so.
Well, like for
Well, how
me,
about this?
Go for it.
You can't. When I say influence, maybe it's not mom and dad. I talked about my parents, and maybe you say there's one. When I look at, I admire, and
Okay.
maybe the question's more like, hey, I really admire, I look up to, from the outside in, beyond my parents. If there's an individual, maybe just share a little bit and talk about why.
well, with me, I don't really look up to anybody in my family. But what drives me is like really want to go to college, because if I go to college, I would be first generation.
Yeah. That's
And
cool.
just like my sister, she had the chance to go to college, but she never did. So it's up to me now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. I would say both of my grandmas actually influenced me because they both went to college, and that was not something that was always accepted for them. So I was kind of always taught from a young age that it's like you can do whatever you put your mind to. You can do it, and like you should do it, and there should be nothing to hold you back from that. Because they're kind of just like living examples that you could be in the business world, you could be in the teaching world, you could be in the science world. Like you can kind of go wherever you want. So yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that my biggest inspiration from the time I was 7 and heard about her music would be Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And she
Ooh.
just recently came out with her new album on Friday, and she's really proved to me that no matter what style of music you go into, as long as you pour your heart out into
Do
it,
it well.
and you do it well and you do it with passion, that there is so much success that can come from that. And she has inspired me to write my own music, and it's really like developed that passion for music for me. So I definitely feel like I've been very thankful to have her music in my life
As a role model.
for the past 10
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
I don't know. This one's kind of a tough one for me. I had a coach that really helped me out. He always kind of pushed me all the time, even when I didn't want to be pushed. He definitely kept pushing, and I hated him for it. But now I kind of look back and I see that he was a great influence on me, and just all the traits that he kind of put into me.
Yeah,
and
he saw that spark in you.
yeah, exactly.
Like now look at
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
Fan the flame, right?
I mean, also BizTank. They
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
They're
That's
really
been a
driving
massive influence. Just like being able to
And the
come in contact and like talk to people.
Yeah.
Like
The
even you right now, the
connections
connections
are
are
huge.
the connections.
so valuable. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think at this age, especially, just networking is the biggest
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Or just at any age, really. And if you can get any opportunity to network, it's a great leg
Yeah,
up.
knowing-
So
Man, getting in
like,
touch.
Even
Yeah.
like what you said, like knowing how to talk to people, knowing how to relate to people, knowing how to be genuine and be interested, like
Mhm.
that's such a huge trait that I think is like kind of overlooked.
Mhm.
But we really had to learn that and kind of
Mhm.
instill that in ourselves.
Right.
And we
Taking
became more
advice.
confident from like
Yeah.
the first session.
Oh,
yeah,
we
for
were in
sure.
here like
Yes.
practicing these
Mhm,
podcasts, and we were all like
Yeah,
super
yeah.
nervous to
Yeah,
like
I
being
remember
here and being really outgoing.
Yeah,
I did
and-
not talk. I was like, I don't know any of these people.
Slumped down in your chair.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And now you're more confident. You
Oh,
feel
yeah,
better.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Exactly.
For sure.
All right.
That's great. Well, all I can say is I know I think we have to close here in a couple minutes, but I would just say, my takeaway from just the handful of questions that I asked, a lot of folks always kind of critique kind of the youth of America, and there's
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
a bit of a negative connotation,
Yeah.
like, oh, they're being handed to them in this generation. It was different when we were older and when we were kids, blah, blah, blah. And, And I was just just listening to you guys, I think, our future is a bright one because the energy, the passion, just how you are, articulate, how you think. I think we're in a great spot, and I commend you guys for, the work you guys are doing there, chasing your dreams, seeing obstacles and plowing through them or working your way around them. Just keep at it and continue to do the right things, and your future's a very bright one.
Yeah, thank you so
very
much
much.
for the wonderful advice,
That's awesome.
Nick.
So thank you so much for joining us tonight on the phone. We really, really appreciate your insight and all the advice. Just
Yeah, thank you so much.
We
You
hope
have
you
a
keep
great
living
night.
your best life and loving what you do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go out and buy some hand sanitizer.
We'll
I'll
be cheering you on
Stay
back
warm out
here
there in
in
that
Delavan,
70 degree
Wisconsin.
weather.
Yeah.
Kind of want some Starbucks.
There you go.
Right?
Go to your local Target.
Yeah.
All
Yep.
right.
I frequent there, so.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
You
Have
have
a great night, Nick.
Good night,
Thank
good
you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
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 See you later.
All right. So, quick shout out to Nick Vlahos for being here with us on
Woo!
Kids in the Tank
Oh,
tonight.
yeah. That was awesome.
Really cool dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
Very
sure.
personable, for
So
sure.
Yes.
genuine. Yeah. It was
I
just,
know.
he was so easy to talk to. That
Oh,
made
I know.
it was so cool.
I was a little nervous beforehand coming in, like, oh man, this guy's
He's
gonna
a
be,
big
he's a
dude.
CEO.
And even
Yeah.
like since he's not in here with us and he's like
Right.
on the phone,
Yeah.
that he
It
was
was, like,
like still
translate.
super easy to
I
do.
kind of want to meet his parents, man.
Yeah.
What?
They
He
drove us
inspired
so
him
much.
so
Oh.
much. What he talked about them was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so before we transition into our last segment, the roundtable, we're going to give you a brief word from our sponsors.
Prestige Paints is changing the way you buy paint. We're the #1 selling brand of interior and exterior paint on Amazon.com. And with the help of our app, Prestige Color Pick, we're making paint buying a whole lot easier. With the app, you can take a picture of your wall and then virtually paint it with any of our 2,400 plus colors. And now you can try our competitors' colors on your walls too. Once you find the color you love, you can purchase it from Amazon right through the app, saving yourself a trip to the store. Prestige Color Pick is free and available through the App Store and Google Play. Live colorfully and design your life with Prestige.
Hi, this is Mike Butler with Elkhorn Chemical and Packaging. We've been in business for 65 years. We're located in Wisconsin. We represent the janitorial, packaging, safety, and maintenance categories. We sell to small businesses all the way to large corporations. So, if you're in need of a cleanup in aisle 9, give us a call at 800-377-3556 or check us out at elkhornchemical.com.
Welcome back to Kids in the Tank. So this segment is called the Roundtable, where we discuss new trending topics, hot topics, all that.
Got a lot in
Got a
Oh.
lot in store for you guys, yeah. So to start off, pet peeves.
Ooh, pet peeves.
Yeah. And
Ooh.
One of
I
my
have plenty.
one of my biggest pet peeves is when someone say, I'm going into the refrigerator.
oh,
I want a
we just
chocolate-
talked about this.
I want a chocolate popsicle. I look in there, the box is still in there.
Gives you hope.
Look.
Gives you hope.
Oh yeah, and it's
Steve.
empty.
Yeah.
Oh,
That happens all the
Oh
time.
my gosh.
There's a special place in hell for people that don't throw away the box.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Just
Or like
saying.
one of my biggest pet peeves that I realized once I started my job is when I'm doing a job and someone who thinks they know what they're doing takes over my job.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
and they do it
I
wrong.
was
And they do it
about to
wrong,
finish
and
that.
then they do it wrong.
Yeah.
You try to prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And that also leads into like what do you think about tattoos and the workplace? Like do
Like, are
they
they wrong?
distract?
Oh, yeah.
I think I think a lot of it depends on like the culture of or like the vibe of your workplace.
Yeah.
So like
Mhm.
I wouldn't go into like a corporate meeting with like a quote
Oh
on
yeah.
my neck or like "Hi Mom" across my forehead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Like in the military, you can't have
Yeah.
anything. You can't even have stuff on your
Showing.
arms or hands or anything.
I feel like
showing.
if it's more relaxed, like depending on if the tattoo has like
Yeah.
a meaning
Get like
to you or
give
not.
Yeah.
me the job on your forehead.
Yeah. Well, probably won't get you there.
So yeah.
All right.
Speaking of like so tattoos like that wouldn't be an easy way to cover them up if you did get them on your hands. Like there has to be some sort of life hack, like foundation.
Kind of like a hack.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
like
Do you mean like
Life hacks.
clothing?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, like
Life
long
hacks.
sleeves.
Yeah,
long sleeves,
like-
life
I
hacks.
like checks.
I watch them all the time on YouTube.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty cool,
Or
but
like-
I never
They
use
never
them.
work.
They never
BuzzFeed
work.
comes out with really great life hacks.
Yeah.
They're not.
Mhm.
There was okay, one that honestly changed my life.
You
we need
changed your
to- we need
life.
to
It
talk
might
about this
change
for a
yours
second.
too.
I saw an Oreo commercial where someone was eating Oreos with a fork.
With a fork.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fork. They put the
Yeah.
fork
What are
in
you
the
guys
stuffing.
watching?
It was an ad. It was an ad. They
It's
put the fork in the
easier.
stuffing, and then you could just like dip it into the milk and it wouldn't fall off, and you could
Yes.
just like take a bite out of it.
That is actually
I've
it
genius.
was actually
That
life-changing.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Why don't you just pick it up with your hand, put it in
I
the
mean,
milk, and eat it?
because then you could drop it, or like pieces could crumble off, or you would like get your hand all
That's the
milky.
whole experience.
gross.
I mean, but
The
if
whole
we're going to talk
experience.
about,
Pretty
like,
hard.
the hardest thing about being a student athlete, wouldn't it be about, like, watching what you eat and working out and balancing whether or not you eat all those Oreos at once?
Yeah, that
Yeah.
just hit me.
I don't know.
You
Are,
would
are you guys
practice.
student
Well,
athletes?
I am. Right now, actually, I'm doing swim, and
Oh
it is,
my
yeah,
God,
it's
we
every,
get it.
I know,
You're
all right.
6 in the morning,
No,
every day.
I know, exactly, so, like, I have
Always
to,
smelling like chlorine.
yeah. Oh, that's really bad.
Does
But
your
that's
hair-
only, like, specific.
Does your hair get more blonde?
It gets really, like, bleach blonde, and
Is
it
it
turns
green?
into doll hair. It's
Oh,
really
man.
bad, I know.
Does it get? Because I know like.
But join the swim team.
Yeah, we just swim
You
team.
know what?
We only got 10 kids.
You know what's also hard? I have a hard time picking audiobooks and printed copies. I kind of
Yeah.
go with audiobooks. I don't
Really?
really like, yeah.
That's not
Mm.
right.
Can you tell us a little more about that, Oscar?
Yeah.
Well,
Why? Like, what are you doing wrong? Are you
Well,
okay?
I don't really like reading. Like, if I would read a book, I like the movie better.
You need to.
Oh,
You
yeah.
gotta go. No, you're out.
Like, for me,
If
No, you have to read the book before you watch the movie, and the book is always better. These are the facts.
Like, for me,
These
Not
are
necessarily.
Better.
we're reading Shakespeare right now in my English class,
Mhm.
and I prefer, like, the printed copy over reading it online just because it's, like,
It's harder.
easy to follow.
Yeah.
I feel like if you have it right in front of you,
If
you can
I'm,
like
like-
flip the page and not
yeah.
like screw around with like the mouse
You also
and
get to,
stuff
like,
and
If I'm-
scrolling.
If I'm trying to, like, learn something and absorb something, then I'll, like, read it on a hard copy. But otherwise, like, I'm watching the movie. I'm
No.
watching it. In English
Wait,
class, if
wait.
I have to read a book,
Wait.
nah, I'm going to the
You know
movie.
what you should be doing
Honestly.
instead?
Yeah.
No, because okay. Do you remember? Were you in AP Prep last year?
I was, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when we had to listen to King Lear in class, and
Yeah,
the
but-
people reading it were so bad. Like the voice acting was so bad. It drove me insane.
All right, you know
Speaking of
what we
voices-
should be talking about
It drove
instead
me
of
insane.
AP and Shakespeare and
Here
audiobooks?
we go.
What album just dropped on Friday, November 10th? Can anyone tell me?
Sam
I
Smith.
It's
couldn't
like
tell
the
you.
biggest news right now.
Wait, hang on.
Kanye West.
Did she?
No, no,
Chance?
no, no.
Want to tell us?
Taylor Swift.
Wow.
I mean,
dropped one in years.
Come on,
Yeah, it's
her
been-
new
it's been 4 years.
her new album
It's been 4
Reputation.
years.
Yeah, it's been 3
Wow.
years.
3 years.
Her
Longer
new
than
album
3 years.
Reputation is so different than all of her new, like all of her other
Yeah.
albums.
Joel
It
Taylor's
is
dead.
Yep,
Wow.
it is my
Sorry.
life. It is like it is
Currently
life. She
listen-
is queen. I suggest everybody listen to it. Are you a
I'm a
Taylor
fan.
Swift
I'm a fan. Yeah, I've been a fan for a long time. I was okay. I was a little bit skeptical about this new album just because it seemed
hasn't been in
so
years.
Yeah,
different.
there were
It
bad
seemed
reports.
really
There were a few
different.
bad
It
It
reports
was
out of the
kind of
gate.
like her vibe was completely changed. Like even
Yeah.
like with 1989, I could kind of like still see her there,
Yeah.
but this was just like so drastic and so different. And I realized that's exactly what she was going for.
Yeah.
But like it kind of scared
Like,
me.
I'll admit, when she came out with Look What You Made Me Do, I was like, oh my gosh, the old Taylor is dead. Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But she ended up
Like,
writing that
no.
song about her reputation
Right,
and what
right.
she
She's- okay,
doesn't want
she's
people to
genuinely,
remember
like,
her as.
genius when it
I
comes
don't
to
even know what
business
you
and when
guys
it
are
comes to
talking about.
marketing. I know we could go on forever. But yeah, when it comes to like marketing and when it comes to like business, she's
Mhm.
like actually a genius.
Yep, she's killing it right now.
Oh, bigger star here, though.
Okay.
Oh,
You
okay.
wish.
All right.
You wish.
No, all
Really?
right.
This is roles of some
Controversial.
fighting
Controversial.
words.
I know, but Kim Kardashian,
Okay.
she's got a girl right
Yeah,
now.
she's got a
Okay.
little baby girl. She
She's
announced it
a-
on Ellen.
She's a surrogate, right?
She's not
Ellen?
a surrogate. She has a surrogate.
Oh, yeah,
So
that's
she's not.
Yeah.
Oh,
She's not
yeah.
carrying the
I'm
baby
not-
herself. Yeah.
there's a difference. Yeah.
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 What's
okay.
the baby's name?
Oh, I don't know.
Well,
I don't think
she gets
said
to
yet.
name
I
it.
don't think
Oh.
she said yet.
I don't think she gets to name
I'm
it.
waiting for another crazy name.
But I guess that's like the big new
Southeast.
thing. Like,
Southeast.
Yeah, okay, that's a big
everybody
thing.
has been talking
And then there's
about it.
also like some like rumors that Kylie is pregnant and Chloe is pregnant, but those
Yes.
like haven't
They're like
been.
all at the
Oh,
same time.
Kylie's
Yeah, like-
definitely
Kim
pregnant.
All right, Zach, what do we
There's
know
no
about
way.
this?
I'm just saying.
A
It's in
Kardashian
everything. It's on everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's never too early to have a baby, and it's also
yeah.
never too early to be
No.
ready for winter and Christmas.
Oh,
be
yeah.
prepared. Be prepared. Be prepared for winter. Be prepared for
Yeah,
summer.
Like,
Like,
I
as
love
long as you're
Thanksgiving, but
prepared.
just bring me the Christmas music. Let me put
Okay.
it on
Oh,
the
yeah,
tree.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
2
Let
weeks
me
ago.
rock out to that music.
Just like 2 weeks ago, I was listening to Christmas music, and I don't know
Before
why. I
Halloween.
was
No,
so
yeah,
easy.
I
Skip over
like,
Halloween.
I'll listen to it in like July. Like I'm always down for Christmas.
I
And,
love
like,
Christmas
don't
music.
want a lot for Christmas.
well, my
Yes.
birthday. Okay, so my birthday is December 30th. So it's like Christmas, then my birthday,
Whoa.
then New Year's, like all in the same week, and it's just the most magical time of the year. It's the
Yeah,
best.
and
It's the
Well,
greatest.
I mean, if it's like some Frank Sinatra Christmas music,
Like,
I'll
oh,
listen to that
Frank
anytime
Sinatra.
of year.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like, oh,
But
okay.
if it's like Jingle Bells, no, I'm
Jingle-
I'm
Okay, so,
skipping
like,
that.
man.
Speaking of classics, High School Musical.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
A classic. A
My
classic. We can
life.
all attest. High School Musical is a
Zac
classic.
Efron.
Okay, it
Zac
is a
Efron.
classic.
I
It's
have
a
videos
classic.
of second grade me running around the house
Yeah,
singing
for
that.
sure. Like everyone does. I'm sure Zach, you do. Oscar.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I had a little MP3 player that had "Get Your Head in the Game" on
Yeah,
it.
okay.
Right
You
You
before
used to
I
run
played
around your
basketball.
basement too and like pretend you're playing basketball.
Yeah.
Right.
So okay, so
It's my
recently
pop-up
it's
song.
been announced that Disney is making a spin-off show of High School Musical, and like I don't know how I feel about it.
It's a TV show?
It's a
I
TV show, not a movie, so it's not gonna have the same cast. It's gonna be a whole new storyline.
Yeah,
I don't-
It's gonna ruin
I don't
it.
think
More
like
songs,
I
more
don't think
songs.
like the kids growing up today would even understand what High School
Yeah.
Musical
Like what
really
the
meant
It
to
wouldn't
us.
carry as much
Yeah.
value.
Yeah, and like what the characters played
Like
in
it's-
the making of
Yeah,
that.
no,
those
it's
movies.
a uniting factor for our generation. I think. Yeah,
Exactly.
We're all very passionate about.
Yeah,
High School
I feel like
Musical.
just
Well-
like you couldn't remake Hannah Montana.
Kind of.
You
Right.
can't
I
remake
think
High
it's-
School
I think it's
Musical and put it on a
definitely-
TV
I
show.
don't know.
but
I just want them to ruin it. Like I
it's just
feel
me.
like it's pretty risky. It's pretty
But,
risky.
okay,
move.
let's give it a chance though.
I don't know.
Give it a
maybe
chance.
we
It's-
should. I don't
I don't know. Okay.
It's also
I'm
risky
out.
that Aaron Rodgers is out.
Yeah,
for
risky for the
season.
Packers.
It's really
risky for the
risky.
Packers.
Yeah, I've got nothing to watch anymore.
He's out. He's out.
I'm
on
done.
the-
got the Badgers
I
and
never
that's
watched
it.
football unless it was high school varsity football. That's all I really cared about.
I
but-
yeah.
What
I'm
are
not.
know,
I'm
he's
not
going
super
to do?
loyal, and I wish I was. But
His backup, Brett Hundley.
how's
He's
he doing? How's
But he
doing?
did.
well, he's 1-2 so far after
Okay.
3 weeks. So
Okay, that's average.
and
odds.
against some pretty good teams.
But like
so
the
we'll
Packers
see.
did recently just beat the Bears without.
Oh, I
Oh,
know.
okay.
Aaron Rodgers,
That-
is that true?
Well, that was
Did I
a
hear
given.
right?
They were gonna beat the
Okay.
Bears
Did I
no
hear that
matter
right?
who was on the field. They could put me out there.
Oh,
Bears
the
don't got
Bears.
anybody.
So yeah, okay. So
Alright.
speaking of Aaron Rodgers being out, recently in news of coming out, there is
Ooh.
Okay.
marriage equality in Australia. Recently, there was a poll, and like 80% of their population showed up for the poll, and
Was
Wow.
that yesterday?
it was yesterday, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they overwhelmingly voted yes for marriage equality. So that's kind of in the
That's a
news.
good
news. Yeah, that's
kind of in
cool.
the news. Yeah, it's really cool. I don't know. I really also am like I like the way that they did it. They had like a population poll, so like
Mhm.
asked each.
Yeah, that's
Well,
I just-
I think it's
so
important
way
to
do
note
it.
too that it's not necessarily like a for sure thing,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
but it's
But it definitely,
definitely
like,
it pushes
shows,
legislation. for
Yeah, it
sure.
shows like what the people really want.
Yeah.
Which
I
is
like,
which is
Yeah.
really important.
And it'll
They're
probably
listening to
happen.
the
It'll
More
probably
than likely
pass, more
happen.
than
listening to
Yeah.
the people. Yeah.
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 So.
Alright. All right. Well, actually, one of the next topics that we have you guys heard about the new Star Wars movie, The Last Jedi, that's supposed to come out?
Well,
Like, how do
honestly,
you
Oh.
how do you
Go-
feel
going-
about that?
Honestly,
They're-
growing up, I've never watched Star Wars before.
I think
I-
they're beating a dead horse with this.
I
They're
don't.
just I mean, they
Really?
keep making so much money, but
That's
Just to
true.
me,
it's, like,
it's kinda-
it's kind of one of those things where it's like just because it says Star Wars in the
Right.
title, like
I know.
you're automatically
You're making
gonna draw an
billions.
audience.
If you're like
Yeah.
a diehard fan and you understand it, then you can be
Mhm.
excited. But like
Yeah.
for me, there's so many movies that in order for me to
Oh.
like it, I would have to watch them from
Well,
the beginning.
Okay, I don't
I
know
feel
because there's
like.
also like I know a lot of people who were invested in the older ones don't really like the newer ones so
Mhm.
much. I know like I went and saw the last one and it was kind of just like the same storyline.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
repeated, like they're
Yeah.
bad guys and then they blow stuff up.
I just feel
and
like
guys
it's
win.
confusing
Well,
either way.
that's just about every
it's
action
It's like
movie,
kind
though.
of going back to like Hannah Montana thing. Like it might be just like a separate entity that like we kind of don't really understand.
All I know is there's like lightsabers
Oh.
and a
Yeah?
big
My-
hairy
Well,
guy. That's it.
You're nailing
Yeah,
it.
My-
but guess what? Guess what also just saved America? Cards Against Humanity.
Ooh.
Do you know the
Saving
full
the
story
world.
on that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
actually really cool.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
actually really cool. I was very impressed when I read this. So the corporation, the company, I think,
Company,
of,
yeah, whatever it is.
of Cards Against Humanity recently like bought a plot of land on the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah.
So in order to like deter President Trump from building his
wall.
land wall.
Well,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
so what it would do
Okay.
is for $15 you can kind of buy into this and
Okay.
um
So there's still money involved.
oh,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Okay.
And it's just kind of one of their holiday promotions. And you actually, if you give this $15, you get 6 surprises. So throughout the month of December,
Oh.
they'll send you 6 postcards or whatever they are. Yeah, but
This is interesting.
the main goal is, or at least this first surprise, is just they bought all this land, and they will deter, like what
Yeah.
you said, Trump from getting that, and just making it the
As
most
hard as
expensive
possible.
and time-consuming
As
as
hard as
possible,
possible.
which
I'm
some
not-
could argue is a great thing.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. It's That's really smart.
Yeah,
I'm proud of them.
that's yeah.
But you know
Yeah.
what's not a great thing? Usain Bolt is retiring.
Wait, who?
Usain
Oh,
Bolt.
come
The
on.
fastest
What do you
man
mean?
Someone
in the
like
world.
help me in and like who?
Honey, you've been living
Where
under
have
a
you
rock.
been
Yeah.
for the last like?
Fastest
I've
man
just
in the
been
world.
listening to Taylor Swift's new
All right,
album.
Oh,
That's all I've
okay.
been listening
I
to.
think we
That
passed
only
that.
gives you an excuse for the past like 3 days. Like you're not covered from not knowing who Usain Bolt is.
Usain
So he
Bolt.
was the fastest man in the
world.
world.
Wow.
Yeah, fast Olympic runner,
But-
Olympic athlete.
For
I think
Jamaica?
yeah,
Yes.
Jamaica.
Okay.
look at
Yeah. Yeah, you did know
I
what's
vaguely
going on.
remember you
Yeah.
saying that. Okay.
I mean, okay, so like Michael Phelps, he said that he was gonna retire like 3 different times, and he
That's
never
And
did.
yeah.
So
That's
we'll
true.
see.
I guess
mean,
you change your mind a lot
yeah,
when you're in the
and
Olympics.
especially money talks
hard to
too.
stay
Money
away.
talks.
Yeah.
So
I just
we'll
think
see.
it's like it would be hard to give up something that's like you've built
Yeah.
your life
Oh, I
around. Like you
know.
put so much time into.
Does
it.
anybody
Like,
know like how old he is? Is he like?
I
I would
don't
say
know.
30ish, maybe
Ah,
mid
I
30s,
feel
maybe a
like-
little.
I don't know.
20,
I don't know.
Maybe that's a little young
Mid-20s.
to retire.
Yeah, that.
But
I
I
mean,
mean, okay,
he's
also,
making
like,
bank
yeah.
though.
You
Like
got all that
with
money.
that
He has his
Nike
own-
but-
ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a big thing for the sports world to kind of like see someone like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Something
isn't
like
there
that.
like another news headline that's
Yeah.
Oh,
Sports
yeah.
world.
pretty,
Yeah.
yeah, in the sports
Big
world.
So
one.
yeah, I'm gonna let you know a lot about this.
Okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
all right. I'm not gonna say I know a lot about it. I know the
Yeah.
headline though. So okay. So a lot of us know the. Well, maybe not you, but
I
just
the
the Ball family, LeVar Ball,
The Ball
LeAngelo
brothers.
Ball.
LaMelo.
So
Yeah.
yeah, LaMelo. LeAngelo Ball. LeAngelo Ball was recently caught in China stealing from a Louis Vuitton store, and he in China could have gotten sentenced to 3 to 10 years in jail.
But he did.
Oh.
So
Did he
he
get away
didn't.
with it?
Why didn't
Well,
he?
okay,
It's
there's a
Louis
lot of
Vuitton.
different
Why, also, why do you feel
opinions.
the need to like steal?
Oh, I
feel
know
like
he's like
he's
rich,
rich,
right?
yeah.
I know.
He's
got
Yeah,
the
I think he's
money
just dumb.
already.
I
feel
don't.
like-
I do
I don't
not
think
like
it was
that family.
necessary. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Huh?
Let's talk about this. Why did you like them? Why aren't you a fan?
They're okay. I'll give this to them. They're very good marketers,
Mm.
but like because they can get their name out just by kind of pissing people off the whole time.
Ah,
But
okay, that's one strategy.
yeah,
That's
right.
one
So
tactic. I mean, it's
yeah.
worked for you so far. So.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn.
you know who
Throwing
else it's also
shade.
worked for? Like American Eagle and marketing their holy jeans. Like,
Yeah.
do you agree with like buying jeans with holes in them, or do you
Yeah,
feel
no,
like
I
we should
don't-
have more
I don't
options?
agree
I'm not
with
gonna-
that.
As you're
Not
wearing
fair.
jeans with holes in
Those are
them,
distressed
and I was
jeans.
about to wear
Okay,
some
wait.
tonight, but there's kind of
Holes-
a difference. But
I think I would like to refer to them as distressed.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like the first jeans.
like in
Yeah.
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
distress.
Yes.
Okay. Mhm.
I don't. Okay. It kind of.
I
It
like
makes me a
distressed jeans.
little
They're
bit
good.
mad that they're more expensive than the rest of than like
yeah.
I-
Also, it takes a lot to go into a store and find a pair of jeans that isn't ripped. Like you have to work.
Or
for it.
that
You
fit
gotta hunt.
perfectly.
Yeah, you gotta
because
hunt.
they're such like smaller sizes.
I'm just
Yeah,
like,
I'll go
oh,
into
no.
the little changing room and I'll bring like 10 pairs in because you know like 9 of them aren't
Exactly.
fitting.
It's also really risky because like putting on pants with holes in them, like your foot could just go straight through a hole,
Exactly.
and then like
Oh, I know, my
rip
toe.
the
That's what happened
pre-rips.
here.
But like, why not? Why
My
put
toe
money
got
for
in the
them
hole.
if they're just gonna look like ripped and
Because
old
it's
and
you just
I
look
like
warm,
them.
like
I guess it's
adventurous.
just stylish.
Yeah,
and
they
not
are- they are
about it.
stylish.
I
They're
don't
cool.
know. It's
I
just
like
the
them.
trend.
I don't
and-
Show 'em off a
Do you
little bit.
remember when Mean Girls used to be the trend too?
Oh,
Like-
so many trends, so many trends in Mean Girls.
I
the mini
heard-
skirts, the belly shirts.
Yeah,
like how-
exactly.
Like
I
models.
heard that they're actually coming out with a new musical. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Okay,
Would you
never
see Mean
actually, I
Girls?
never actually watched Mean
Oh.
Girls. Who
I
are
mean-
these girls?
I
Who are
haven't
these
either.
girls?
I'm guilty
really
that I
not?
have
I
not
will
seen it.
Zach.
ever.
Admit to watching it once.
Once.
But
was
I was
forced to, my
forced into
sister.
watching
Isn't it
Yeah.
the only line I remember is like we only wear pink
When-
on
on Wednesdays we
or
wear
something.
pink.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays
Gosh,
we wear
Karen,
pink.
you're so
That's what it is. okay. All right, but do you know
I-
that was a
Rappers
reference
that you wouldn't
understand? Like I guess it's
Never
a big
watched it
thing.
before.
and-
No, I don't. And like I'm kind of
Either.
interested to see what they do with the music.
Yeah, what?
Like, what it's
kind
gonna-
of
if
if it's
songs
gonna
are
be
they
like
gonna
a
sing?
Glee, like a
Okay,
spin-off
so there's
of Glee.
there's a musical called Heathers that was also a movie that was kind of like in the 80s. It was sort of like pre Mean Girls, like it was the same Mean Girls vibe. Like there's a tribe of 3, and then they had one, and they kind of like initiated her.
Yeah.
That was a musical. So I was like, it's probably gonna be along that vibe, but I don't know what they're gonna do to make it new.
Mhm.
So I don't
Yeah.
know, but I really liked Heathers.
What
That
was
a good one.
what was Mean Girls based on? Like, what were they?
It was just
Uh,
like
like high
it's just
school.
like high
Mean
school.
I hate the
drama.
fact that I know this.
Yeah, that's like, well, you see, it was like the
Yeah,
three Mean
all
Girls.
these
Like,
girls.
You can't sit
There's
with
new
me.
girl
like
comes
that.
to school.
There's a lot of
And
shows like
you-
that
This
now.
new girl comes to
I'm cooler
school
than
and she's
you.
like kind of gets forced into this clique
Yeah.
And she's trying to like infiltrate them from the outside and like get in with them and like tear them apart from the inside.
I feel like it did
Because
not.
they're the mean
No,
girls.
She's
because they're the
pretty
mean
mean,
girls.
okay.
Yeah.
No,
No.
she's the good girl
she's
originally.
The nice one.
It's really complicated.
I feel like
It's
it did
not,
not
though.
help
Don't-
like our
Don't
worry about
expectations
it.
of high school
Okay.
at all.
Oh
Okay.
no,
I
yeah,
never
no, that's the
watched
thing.
it.
It really scared me for high school.
I know,
But,
but
like-
thankfully it's gotten better.
Yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, yeah.
You know it has.
Yeah, but
I
no,
mean, we're
okay.
here today.
So I would recommend seeing it. It's like classic. It's just like very educational.
Yeah.
I would say.
I don't think
Zach,
I'll
okay,
ever-
you can't
I
even
don't think
talk.
I don't
All
think I'll
right,
ever see
you
it.
can't even talk.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm
No.
I'm pleading the fifth.
All right. Well, that's all
All
our hot
right.
topics for this evening. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in to Kids in the Tank. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
A little self promo out there.
Subscribe to BizTank.
Subscribe to BizTank on YouTube, yes. Otherwise, if you search for the Kids in the Tank podcast, it can be found on Google Play, Stitcher, and then iTunes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you guys so
All
much
of
for
it.
hanging
Full
out with
pack.
us tonight. All right.
Yeah.
A 1, a 2, a 3.
Boom!
To learn more about BizTank and this podcast, check out our website at genevasupply.com/BizTank or head over to our Facebook pages.